Find the location in the Lviv Media Forum chat in WhatsApp. So this is the announcements. Dear guests, dear friends, dear organizers, dear participants, please return to the main hall where we are starting our panel discussion. If you are still getting your coffee, grab your coffee and return to the main hall because we are starting our discussion right now. I also ask the panelists to come to the stage. Alla Petrenko-Lysak, Ivan Verbetsky, Ksenia Ivanishyn, Oleg Drozdov. Будь ласка, пройдіть на сцену.
Dear panelists, please come up here to the stage.
Yeah, so we're starting now, and it is your last chance to get to the hall before we begin with the discussion. And those who are late will miss a great start and a great talk. So you practically like punishing yourself. Well, we have a great discussion now with 4 amazing guests. Although it is hard to compete with the previous one, but we will definitely do it. So the current discussion is talks on reconstruction towards a human-centered approach. And let me introduce the panelists. It is Alla Petrenko-Lysak, who is Associate Professor of the Department of Industrial Sociology at the Faculty of Sociology at Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv. And her research interests revolve around the study of social space, cities, urban everyday life, and contemporary spatial mobilities. She's a co-author of the course Sociology at the Kharkiv School of Architecture. The second panelist is Ivan Verbetsky, who is a director of SEDOS, independent think tank, and community that has been working on social development. For me personally, it's a great honor to welcome Ivan because in my former work as a Böll Foundation director in Kyiv, we cooperated with SEDOS a lot, and also on Mr. site Urban Media, where he was an editor and project manager, and he is a national expert of the Council of Europe project in Ukraine, and one of the consultants on development of integrated urban development of Podilsky district in Kyiv. We have Oleg Drozdov, who is an architect, urbanist, artist, academic, and expert of architecture. He is also a founder and chief architect of Drozdov and Partners Architectural Office. He is a co-founder and president of the Kharkiv School of Architecture. And since 2020, he's a co-founder and the chief architect of the Paragraph Studio of Architecture and Urbanism in Montreux, Switzerland. And the last but not the least is Ksenia Ivanishyn, who is a research officer at UCBI Chemonics. And she's an expert in research methodologies and instruments working with hard-to-reach audiences and national studies. And Ksenia has prepared a presentation on what we are to expect on the perception of the Ukrainians towards the reconstruction. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Will you do it, please?
Yeah. So I would ask to turn on the presentation, and we can start with it. Yeah.
Can you see like behind, like through our bodies? Are we transparent enough? Yeah.
So yes, my name is Ksenia. I'm the researcher in the Ukrainian confidence building initiative. And today I'm going to present you one of our latest researches that was dedicated to the topic of local media consumption and recovery beliefs. The specificity of this research is that it was conducted on liberated and frontline communities, and particularly on 8 oblasts: Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Mykolaiv, Odessa, Sumy, Kharkiv, Kherson, and Chernihiv oblasts. Very important point to add here is that data from Kherson and Zaporizhia Oblast was collected only on government control areas. Quickly about the methodology, it was CAT survey, telephone interviewing. Also, the sample of this survey was 1,018 respondents, and it was collected by Kyiv School of, Kyiv International Institute of Sociology. The basic idea why we put together the topic of media consumption and recovery beliefs is that we had the hypothesis that strengthening local voices may help people become more confident about that reconstruction in their communities is possible. And also we see that there are some tendencies, changes for people who experience different like types of some of the regions experience occupation, some of the regions experience frontline living, and we see the differences of consuming media, and we just wanted to check, to measure what are these practices, how does it change through time. And for about that and little more, I will talk on the next slides. Yes. So the first thing that we asked people, how often they consume local media news sources, and overall percentage for all of the 8 oblasts was 79%. So like 79% of daily usage of local sources. People constantly checking news at least once per day, and this is especially evident for people from frontline and liberated areas, because we see and we heard it from interviews, in-depth interviews, that people say that for some of the reasons, checking the news is a very specific way. How do they defend themselves? How do like defending mechanism for them? Like practice for checking news just to see what's going on outside the cities, whether there is any damage, danger, any shellings, just to be sure that they can plan and like their daily foreseen days. Also, the first choice platform is social networks. It's very well-known finding, but the overall usage of social networks for frontline and liberated areas is 83%. In Odessa Oblast, this share is 68%, a little bit smaller. And a very interesting finding about Kherson, government control areas, that only 11% of respondents still don't have access to local news. 16% of people indicate that they don't use internet, whether they don't have access to that or just don't know how to use it. But
I hope it is a half of presentation because you have consumed the half of your time.
Oh my God, I'll go faster, thanks. Okay. So about social platforms, very obvious. Telegram is the most popular source for getting local news, and very interesting about Viber, that Viber is especially preferred in Kherson and Mykolaiv, Facebook in Chernihiv and Sumy. Interesting about Odessa, that respondents indicate higher consumption of local news via video platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. So it can be some of the tips how we can communicate with Odessa, through which platforms. Next slide. We ask people what are the criteria for selecting medias, and they indicated that media should be verified, they should show a current news, and should be neutral. Very interesting, because back in 2020, the situation was different. People usually indicated that they want to get actual news or interesting news, but not verified. It may indicate that it's like choosing verification as a top criteria. This is an indicator how people see that they become more critical in selection news. It doesn't explain why people choose not so critical media platforms or media bloggers, but still people believe that they become more critical in that. Interesting about Kherson, that also for them is very important thing to trust the personalities of journalists. 21% of respondents indicated there. It might indicate that people believe that they should firstly test these personalities and then decide whether they are trustworthy. We asked people what kind of news they would like to receive more, and for me personally it was very shocking that only 4% of respondents indicated that they receive enough information, which means 96% feel that they have a lack to some extent to any news, any topics. For Liberated and Frontline, they would like to receive more information about the war and state support programs, and for Kherson and Sumy, this is information about humanitarian efforts, and for Zaporizhia and Kharkiv, information about evacuation news. Entertainment consumption, 49% indicates that they are not interested in entertainment content for now. But when we asked people what other information they would like to receive more except of news, they indicated they would like to receive information about Ukrainian culture, and 62% of respondents from our research regions indicated this. Quickly about recovery beliefs, 2 slides.
1 minute.
Okay, it's enough time, thanks. About recovery prioritization. We asked people on liberated areas, first of all, what of the services they see that are damaged. And then we asked them to prioritize the urgency of its recovery. On the right, in blue, you can see the share of those people who indicated that this service was not damaged. For example, only 9% of people from liberated areas indicate that their employment didn't suffer from damage. For local media, 64% of respondents indicated that local media services was damaged and they need to be recovered. People indicate that this recovery should be at least to the pre-war conditions, or half of them indicate that they can wait for better quality. And the last thing about the obstacles that people see for recovery and hopes that they see for recovery. About the obstacles, I will finish with what I started. Third of the respondents indicated that absence of interest to their settlement, external interest to their settlement, makes them feel that recovery is not possible, or this is an obstacle for recovery. On the contrary, we see that what gives people hope, this is international and governmental programs that works with recovery, and information that everything is under control in international donors, partners, or government gives hope that somewhere, sometime, people will come to the normal life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It was amazing. If you stay on the last slide, please, because that was my question, which I wanted to ask first you, and then I think I would address it to Alla, because like you have here an amazing like discrepancy, or a scary discrepancy, as the level of destruction. Like only 2 regions, they say that it will not be like rebuilt because the area is too much destroyed. And of course, like in Kharkiv, you can imagine that it is indeed very strongly destroyed. But even in Kharkiv, you have significant number of other reasons like disorganization, lack of interest, etc. Is it like a disbelief in the way of the country to be reconstructed?
To some extent, yes. Maybe people just don't, like, it may be the reasons that people don't trust to the government or they don't trust anyone, and because of that, they don't believe that reconstruction is possible. But we don't know this reason because we don't ask what are like behind the scene. There are other information what gives hope, and it's not only international and governmental programs, it's also like when people see that community is close, like community can cooperate with each other, and also when people see that really a lot of attention is driven to their region, to their settlement.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My next question is for Alla Petrenko-Lysak, and that is like you are a sociologist who has like strong connection with Kharkiv region, and that is the region where we know like a terrible level of destruction and the number of shelling every day across the border. What are the main needs like people express in this region and in other regions? What do they expect from the reconstruction? What should be reconstructed first? What do they expect to be reconstructed so they can come back with their children?
Дякую за питання. Я не є харківським соціологом.
Thank you for the question. I'm not the sociologist from Kharkiv. Yes, I'm sociologist, but not from Kharkiv. Yes, we do have lots of data, and the companies are trying to understand what should be recovered and restored. I would like to come back to the name of our panel. In this slide, we have the word recovery, but the term used in our panel is reconstruction. I would like to deviate a bit. Well, when I read reconstruction, I immediately remember the word known to everybody, which is perestroika. And again, there were very ambitious goals set, but it happened so that the actually basis, the foundation of the pyramid was taken out, and as a result, the pyramid collapsed. So we have the society that has been affected by the damage and destruction. So the question is what we are going to reconstruct and what we are going to recover or renovate. Another part of our panel, another part of the title of our panel is Human-Centered Approach. The issue of material welfare, the issue of the houses being reconstructed seem to be the priority. But if we look at the researchers, we see that one of the most important things to live in Ukraine and to return to Ukraine, I'm talking about those who left Ukraine and who are IDPs, so the key issues are social census, to renew the social environment, the community, the social relationship people lived in. So when we are talking about infrastructure, the priority of this infrastructure should be the needs of the community and social connections. We would like to build anew or to rebuild or to just build as it was. So if we rebuild, we bring the old census. So what old census we are going to introduce into this new future? Therefore, all the practices should be aimed at the needs of people. And in conclusion, I would like to mention the hero of one of these TV series, which brought people back to the Ukrainian language. This is the American TV series Elf. And there was a question asked how to overcome the two greatest evil of the modern society, unemployment and lack of houses and homelessness. And the answer was, let's give all the unemployed the employment to build houses. So let us really help people with bringing back senses and needs. And it should be something addressed by people who set very ambitious goals to rebuild Ukraine, both during the war and after the war.
Partly stolen my next question, which I wanted to address to Ivan, and that is like, how should Ukraine rebuild, reconstruct, build new Ukrainian cities and towns? When we look what has happened to Bakhmut, when we look what has happened to Mariupol, to Marinka, to other towns, many of them don't exist anymore. They don't have like the community, they don't have anything. They will be rebuilt. Will they be rebuilt? For whom and by whom?
Yeah, it's hard to answer this question directly, but let me try to share my thoughts on this whole idea of human-centered approach, and I think this would be an answer to each particular case. So when I think about human-centered approach, the first idea that came to my mind is participation. To give the people or groups of people who will be affected by the particular decision the right to share their needs regarding this issue. And here it's important to think about some obstacles in this process. First of all, the different amount of resources which different groups of people have, different amount of time, knowledge, and willingness, openness to participate in some decision-making process. But this should not be for us, the solution. They don't have time, they don't want to, and then we will not ask them. That's the bad decision. We need to find ways how to talk to them and to understand what are their needs. And here also the important task for us is to have this distinction between needs, interests, and positions. Because, for example, if we are talking about one organization advocating for safety and security of women and another organization that just don't like to give something to feminists, these two organizations are not equal in the discussion of anything connected to the women's rights, because one is about needs and human rights, and another is about some form of politics. So we need research, we need consultations with stakeholders, and we need participation of civil society. The other important topic is the whole process of implementation, because it's not enough to have this big participation process and develop some recovery plan and then do something else. It's the simple idea that you need to implement this great plans, but this simple idea doesn't work well in Ukraine in many cases. Unfortunately, for example, a year ago, the whole government was developing the recovery plan for the conference in Lugano, but after the conference, the year on, this draft of a plan is still draft of a plan. Do not have official status. So many civil society organizations was participating in the development of this plan, but it's just draft. We have a lot of KPIs there, but it's just draft a year on.
Well, we had in Berlin a draft of an airport for 10 years, and still nobody says that it's not possible to build an airport in Berlin. Like, you just wait like 10 years more.
Yeah. We should work on that. And the last topic I want to say about this human-centered approach is solidarity. Like from my point of view, is one of the things that we learned about Ukrainian society during this time of war. We understand that this principle of solidarity is something that helps us to live through all these obstacles. And now the task is to have this idea of solidarity as something that is the cornerstone of our state institutions and our policies. And here we need to have these networks of support for people in need, because the war is one of examples of need when people need some assistance. But we have a lot of other issues in society, like disability, age, poverty, unemployment, and so on. And for the prosperity and for stability and sustainability of the country, of the society, we need to have these structures that help people in these conditions to actually live decent life. And here I can give you one example is social housing, because before the full-scale invasion we had only 2,000 of units of social housing in the whole country, but half of the population cannot answer to the question when do you plan to live if something wrong will happen to your apartment. Half of the population have some relative, friends or money to rent or buy a new apartment, but half of the population don't want what they will do. So we ask our municipalities whether do they have social housing stock and whether do they register people, how much people do they have in their municipality who need this social housing. By the way, they are obliged by the law to have this social housing, to manage the social housing, and to register people in need. And one of the municipalities, one of the regional centers, it's not a small village, give us a beautiful answer. They said, we do not have social housing at all, and that's why we don't register anyone who need social housing. Beautiful, isn't it? No data, no need, no social housing. And this is exactly the example what is a human-centered approach, something opposite to the human-centered approach.
Thank you. That is indeed like moving. Like, do we have a problem if we don't have statistics for the problem? But what you mentioned, like how should the Ukrainian cities, how should life in Ukraine look like after this war, after the Ukrainian victory? We will have a lot of people with trauma, with physical trauma, with moral trauma. We will have a lot of people who will live maybe not in the cities where they lived before the war. So we'll have like huge movement in the society with new needs for people. Is the Ukrainian society ready for this change in itself?
I think yes. The main task for all of us is to talk between us and with different people, and to talk in our communities. What are our expectations and what we want and how we see our future. So this is the main task for every community, every municipality, to have these talks and conversations. And when we will have these talks and conversations, we will have this sense of community, a sense of agency that we talked on the previous panel, and then we will have this vision and we will know what to do with our cities and our communities. Thank you.
And Oleg, tell me, what can the architects do for improving this situation? Is it not like the task you have been waiting for your life, like to make Ukrainian cities new, comfortable, open for everyone, modern, etc.?
Yeah, but always good architecture, it's certain reaction to a lot of circumstances. And I would like to start from just I mentioned what is like happened during the first night of invasion. we in one day it was like during one day a huge moment of choice, and we choose a particular part of civilization, particular part of lifestyle, I don't know, some kind of a lot of and values. Maybe we not till now express of them, but we already choose particular side, and this is a lot of work, maybe to find all these values and to express it, to develop it in our mind, in our society, and make it like a commons. And around these values, we could build a methodology, we could build a vision of the future. And this is like a quite process which for sure will take a lot of time. But because we started from quite a difficult position, if we're talking about built environment, more than half population of Ukrainians had experience or have experienced till now to live in an environment which built in epoch of industrial-centric development. And this is like a Soviet part of our heritage, of our legacy, which no react to any values and qualities which we could divide as a contemporary type of environment. And we have to transform a lot of that. We have quite a huge challenge of energy sources. We have enormously emancipated civic society, which could form other agenda and other brief for future redevelopment. And we have a huge brain drain process. It means that our capacity for rebuilding becoming low and low every day, and to me it's like a question, first of all, question of rebuilding or building a new built environment around human-centric ideas. We have to find a methodology of participation, because it's like just a one chance to build a good cities by a deep involvement of society. It's like a no choice, no other ways to do that in proper way. And also education becoming like quite a key point of process of recovery, because we're talking about there's a particular experts could be help to bring us to moderate a process of recovery in new sustainable way, including like a lot of social issues, I don't know, new technical parameters, new lifestyle, and new symbols, which are super important as something which could be collect people, motivate people to build like a new motivation, and we also have no choice in terms of to find a way how we could bring back Ukrainians to Ukraine, and now we in a huge brutal competition with the whole world, West world mostly, for these resources which we need for recovery. And to me, it's quite easy. It's like it's new Ukrainian cities have to be some kind of container for human happiness. It's like we haven't any other task, and this means it's also like it's jobs, it's quality of environment, it's education, it's I don't know, some kind of public spaces and many, many other things.
That's great, thank you. My next question goes to Alla. When I talk to my good friend who made a research on people who are returning to the liberated territories in Kherson region, he said that one of the main obstacles for people to decide if they come back or not, of course, the housing is a problem. If you don't have a house, you don't come back. But after the housing, it is the availability of a school. And as most schools have been destroyed because the Russians, they used them as the military bases, and they were either been destroyed by fighting or the Russians destroyed them by retreating. There is no school. The kids have no chance to go to school, even if there is a online education. So the families don't come back. The families don't come back. The community doesn't develop. You have mentioned already the reasons which people name, when they can return. But what are their expectations? Do they reflect on what should their former city, new city look like so they could be happy there?
The matter is that sometimes they have heightened or elevated expectations, or sometimes the bar is too low. We do not really have a one-dimensional society. We referred to postmodernity on multiple occasions, and I think that we are facing a paradox here. We have this phrase, not everything is that clear. We view this phrase as something destructive and detrimental. You might have a homogeneous world, and then you will have no ambivalence. So if there's no basic infrastructure that will secure a normal life for families, then it will be a decisive factor in the decision-making process, whether this family will be back or not. I believe that it's crucial to create basic initial conditions to encourage families to return and then contribute to the recovery and reconstruction or transformation of their cities and communities. I refer to Elf, this film character, but we need to engage families and parents in the recovery and reconstruction process. The same holds true of teachers, school teachers and kindergarten teachers. They need to be actively involved as well. So we need to have this crowd-based approach, sticking together-based approach, and my colleague from Belgium, Mr. Gulan, talks about it. It's all about co-participation, co-engagement. If we have this element in place, we will be able to achieve stunning results. And then we will not be able to refute the statements of skeptics who say that let them do it and then I will be back. By the way, there's something that triggers me a lot. There is this hypothetical campaign circulating in the social media with the slogan, return or come back. Return because you have beautiful trams in your city or you have beautiful parks in your city, but who is going to do that? Who is going to create these beautiful parks, trams, inclusive spaces, safe environments? Whoever stayed behind has to work for everyone. This is not the way to go about it. Come back to rebuild and recover together. I believe that first and foremost, we need to communicate the right messages to people, and these messages must center around joint efforts. And then we will not have these skeptics, and we will not really have this fear of something not present right now. It's not present right now, but it will be present in the future.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Roman. I'm from Kharkiv, Nakopilo, and I have almost existential question. Actually,
the level of trust in Kharkiv for regional authorities is bigger than previously because they have stayed during the full-scale war. And do you believe, firstly to Oleg question, do you believe in recovering without corruption?
Believe in recovery?
Recovering, rebuilding without corruption.
Without corruption.
I could say I don't believe in recovery with corruption because it means like we rebuild something which already ancient, which already lost I don't know any sense, and it will be with same result as a lost this I don't know future victory of lost the future. That's why any procedure, any methodology could be avoid any corruption, and we could build there's like a new process of recovery with zero tolerance to corruption, to any, yeah.
But it actually has already started from some places. Some buildings are rebuilt, but in the old way.
Oh, we'll have the next panel, which will start like in a couple of minutes. We will have Irina Chakhovets, who is the head of department in National Agency for Prevention of Corruption, and we'll have Mikhailo Zhernakov, who is a co-founder and board of the Jure NGO, who is also like dealing with judicial reform. So I think you can raise your question again, then, and you will have like very suitable partners for that. And please, the second question. And are there any other questions in the hall for, yes, 3, yeah, great. Yeah, please, it's your turn.
Hello, my name is Anastasia. I'm from Rubrika Media Outlet and Eastern Variant. As media practitioner, I'm thinking a lot about how to make recovery processes closer and accessible for people, because a lot of people perceive it as something granted, as something that they don't have, that they can't influence, impact on it. So how we can shape our narrative, our stories to engage people in it, to explain that processes in even, not in my region, but in other regions, that they make sense for me.
Please.
Yeah, we several months ago we did a research on influence of the war on youth in Ukraine, and one of the questions was whether young people want to participate in the recovery, and like 90% of them answers yes, we want to participate in recovery, but only few of them, like 4 or 8%, already participate in recovery, but recovery was already started from the very beginning, and we have a lot of beautiful initiatives working on recovery, different initiatives, yeah, from thinking about recovery and creating cohesions to actually physical recovery when you can go to some liberated village and do something by yourself. This gap between 90% of people who say they want to participate in recovery and small percent of people who actually participate in recovery can give us different thoughts. And one is the difference between what people say and what people do, of course, but the other is about the recovery itself. People just don't understand what the recovery is because there are some like big words, recovery, some projects on the governmental level, but what this actually means for each and every community. And here I think the role of media might be to actually explain how this big words and big governmental projects are actually connected or not connected to their precise community.
Oh, thank you. We have the third question, and did you want to because actually, like we are slightly running out of time, but if it's short note, okay, good. Yes, please, your question.
Hello, my name is Lesia, and I would like to ask a question, mainly probably to Alla, but to other participants of the panel too. My question is regarding the cities that have been like almost completely demolished during this war, like Bakhmut, like Mariupol. Do they need to be rebuilt, or maybe they should stay as a memorial, like a sanctuary for us to remember? What do you think about it?
Thank you.
Or maybe some parts, because when people will come back and we want to rebuild the cities human-centered, the grief will be always present there, even though they will be rebuilt.
Thank you. We can indeed remember like some towns and villages from World War
Like
II.
Dresden, after the Second World War, a lot of people, it has been bombed to the ground by the British aviation, and it has been rebuilt. But still, even local Dresdeners, they think of their city center as a joke. They don't, you know, they don't have a perception of it.
Thank you
like
for your
a real-
question.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I'm strong belief that Mariupol have to be rebuilt from many reasons. First of all, it's one of the most powerful and still survived community, which very active. And I know there's like all city government and a lot of there's like an organization different level of Mariupol people. They still keep like a conversation about future, and I could say our organization, when I'm related to Rosquit, already in process together with USAID and other like teams also already thinking about future vision of the city. For sure, industries and main function will be transformed, but one of the important things, but community already include in all these like processes of thinking of to creation of a vision of the future. But and for sure, this city has incredible natural condition, which could be more transformed to the human-centrical, beautiful, ecological, sustainable city with maybe absolutely reshaping of structure of economies, but and more look to the I don't know, some kind of future techs and people.
Yeah. Thank you. And Ivan, you wanted to add also?
Yeah, I will try to be short. My answer is it's not up to us to answer this question. The whole idea of human centrality is not about the design of street furniture. It's about people who was living in these cities, for them to decide whether they want to return and rebuild their cities. It's not about like design of the furniture. It's about ask people whether they want to rebuild their cities.
Thank you. I think we can stop at this point, and we can like agree that there are a lot of topics to be discussed further, and of course, with the level of the challenges being.